What's up, Internet? Alexander here, lead engineer at Tiger Blood Studio. You can find me at tigerbloodstudio.com. Today, I'm going to break down the vocal chain on the chorus of Purple by SB Stevie. We just hit 2,000 plays on Spotify. We appreciate your love and support so much, and we wanted to give back and show you how we did it. So, I'll be taking you from this.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no.
To this.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no. Why you can't look good?
So without further ado, let's begin. So we've got two vocals and layers that are actually helping build this whole piece. We've got chorus 2, which is our lead, and drop octave chorus, which is the supporting. If you have the luxury, I always recommend getting multiple takes from your talent. It'll save you a lot of trouble and help you layer as effectively as you can. In this instance, I'm practicing bad form. It is the same vocal 2 times, recorded into a Bluebird microphone. This didn't bite me in the butt, but I'll show you what could have happened and why you want to use different takes if you've got the option. But let's start with our lead vocal. So the first thing we did was open up with pitch correction. We're using Metatune from Slate Digital. It gives us this tone.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no.
With the verse being relatively unprocessed, I wanted it to sit on the beat. This I wanted to carry the melody and be more upfront. So we had the speed set very, very high, -2 milliseconds. As soon as the audio comes in, it is snapping it to a note. The sustain is down at about 50%. That's this purple line here. And it's essentially letting the note drift back to the tune of the original vocal. I didn't want it to be over-processed. I did want it to sound modern, but I still wanted to capture the character of Stevie's voice. So we've got it dialed in at about 80%. I'll mess with these so you can see how that all works.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no.
Give it a little bit of room to breathe there.
Why you can't look good? Replace my kisses with liquor, my love with drugs. Tired of falling in.
So after playing around, those were the settings that I determined worked best. If you're using a pitch corrector and you're having some trouble having it find where it wants to put the vocal, sometimes you can use an EQ ahead of it and cut off your lows to help out. I'll just show you with the stock EQ quick.
Tired of falling in love.
You can see the fundamental is sitting right around here. I don't need any of this.
No. Why you can't look good?
With all of that gone, sometimes the tuner will have an easier time catching it. But I generally tend to low pass at the end, so I didn't worry about that here. The next thing in our chain is JJP by Waves. This works as a multi-band compressor with some character, as well as a multi-effects unit. If you don't have access to this, you can get a similar effect out of OTT, which is a multi-band compressor. It'll just be a little bit cleaner and not have the same body and form. But I'll walk you through that now.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no. Why you can't look good?
Each of these knobs at the end here work similar to OTT. Your presence is your highs, your attitude is your lows, and your attack is your mids. We've got space and magic here. Space is 3-dimensional space, reverb, and delay. I have that turned all the way down, and the reason I'm doing that is that I know I will be compressing in later steps. If you bake reverb into the track this early and start compressing, you will run into issues later, so I don't want any of that. Lastly, magic on the end here works as sort of a dry wet with the character of what it's doing. These knobs on the side are lows, highs, DS, and compressor. I didn't actually touch this too much from stock, and then the sensitivity is how much you're affecting. I aim between green and yellow. You should really use your ears though. Here's all of that in action.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no. Why you can't look good? Replace my kisses with liquor, my love with drugs. Tired of falling in love. Tired of falling in love.
So I dialed all those in. I essentially wanted this to float over the top, so I balanced it more heavy on the presence than anything else. I knew I was going to have an underlayer, so I didn't want to take up too much of that space. The next thing in our chain is Arvox by Waves. We're just looking to do some really basic compression here. This works almost akin to a limiter. We're cutting off peaks and we're getting a better average volume. I'll show you what that sounds like.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no, no. Why you can't look up? Replace my kisses with liquor, my love with drugs.
Just really simple compression. I did it to ear to get it about the volume that I needed for the track, which happened to be minus 10 dB. If you don't have access to Arvox, your stock compressor will probably work just fine. You just want it to the fastest attack time it has and a very short release. I think somewhere between 60 and 120 milliseconds is a good ballpark or starting point. I don't know exactly what you want the ratio at. 4 is pretty heavy, 2.5 is pretty light, somewhere in between there, and that'll give you a similar effect. The last thing we have on the lead vocal chain is the Eosis de-esser. I didn't mess with this too much. I just set it to the basic male preset and then dialed in the sensitivity.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no, no. Why you can't look up? Replace my kisses with liquor, my love with drugs.
It's very subtle. It's just there to catch any sibilances that are sticking out too much.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no, no. Why you can't look up? Replace my kisses with liquor, my love.
With our lead vocal done and out of the way, we can start talking about the support vocal, the drop octave. We have a carbon copy, which is the exact same vocal 2 times. With the top one tuned and the bottom one not tuned, you'll hear the phasing issues I had mentioned before.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no, no.
Now we can eliminate some of that by applying the same metatune. I copied and pasted the same settings, but I just tightened up the amount, so this is being forced to the note a little bit more. There's a setting I did not talk about previously, and that is the doubler, but on this one, I want a really wide, spacious vocal. So right from the get-go, we've got this all the way wide. I'll bring that in and show you what that sounds like.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no, no.
And that's giving us a fabulous amount of width to work with. So the next thing in our plugin chain is Little Altar Boy. We're using this to shift the vocal down by a full octave. The format is sort of like a filtering. It's a little bit complex. I don't know if I can explain it to you in full detail, so we're gonna skip it for now. But this shifting will eliminate the phasing we heard earlier. Check it out.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no, no.
Now I had mentioned the format here is at -4. If I go all the way down to -12, you lose a lot of the clarity and what is being said. It gets kind of muddled.
Why you can't look up?
Replace my kisses with liquor, my love with drugs. Tired of falling in love.
So as I dialed that in and it got a little bit clearer, I found that -4 was the perfect place to leave that. The next thing we have in line on our chain is Decapitator by Soundtoys. We're just adding a very, very little bit of saturation. Drive is 2 out of 10. The mix is about 70% there. It's subtle. It's just helping warm everything up a little.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no, no.
So far, we've done pitch correction, we've widened it, we've dropped it an octave, and we've saturated it. Before we go any further, I want you to hear everything in context in the mix together.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no, no. Why you can't look up?
So keeping in mind that this is a supporting vocal, not the lead, it's starting to overshadow a little bit. What we could do is lower the volume so they blend better, But we built this with intention, and it makes the most sense to me instead to use an EQ and just filter out the parts we don't need. For this, we used EQ8, that is the stock Ableton EQ, and we're running it in mid-side. On the mids, we've low cut at 1K, and we've high cut at 13K. I'm just looking to boost what's in the middle a little bit, add to that shimmer without adding sibilance. On the sides, where it needs the most support because it is a mono lead vocal, we've low cut at 240, and we've high cut at 5.75K. That allows that body to sort of permeate the sides and become this nice full sound. I'll show you this with it on first, and then I'll turn it off and you can see what we've cut out.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no, no. Why you can't look good? Replace my kisses with liquor, my love with drugs. Tired of falling in love. Tired of falling in love.
So with that there, we've just cut off a little bit of the low end and really helped tuck it behind the lead. Now that we've filtered all that out, we've given ourselves some more room to breathe and play. So I want to add some space. We're going to use a delay. We're using Echo Boy by Soundtoys. If you click on any of these, they'll tell you the parameter instead of the title, which is pretty cool. So our mix is at 35% and our feedback is at 0.72. Just adding a little bit of space, I'll bring that in for you now while the vocal is soloed.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no, no. Why you can't let go?
So it's just a little bit of added space now. The last effect on this chain is probably my favorite. It's what I call a gate delay. We're taking two signals of audio and running them parallel. I'm able to do this in Ableton by grouping and then right-clicking and creating a chain. If you're in a different DAW, it's the same as having a return track or a send. On this end, we open up with a gate, and the gate is all the way up so that nothing can go through it. I'm going to solo it so we hear just this for right now. As you can see, audio will go through, but we won't get any sound. So there it is, grabbing the audio and cutting it out. The reason that we're doing this is because we're going to automate it on and off. We only want it to catch certain words. So I'll play it now and you can just hear the words that it picks up. Now, after we've automated those to hit it, we're running it through a little alter boy, which should be familiar. We're dropping it another half octave, but we're not doing anything with the format. We want to retain that clarity. Next, we're running it through Echo Boy. We're running in quarter note delays instead of eighths, so it will take longer and be more spread out. It is all the way wet because we are using it as a send, and the feedback is at about half, so 0.48. And then lastly, we're running it into a little plate, which is a reverb, giving it some space. And that sounds like this. And we're essentially filling back up some of those low mids that we cut earlier. With our lead vocal finished and our support vocal in place, the last thing to talk about are buses. There's three that are important to this sound. Our main vocal bus, which all of the vocals are routed through, and two reverb buses, which we have set some of the vocal to as well as some of the instruments to glue it all together. I'm going to talk about the vocal bus first. Since all the vocals go through it before they hit the master, it's responsible for gluing everything together. We're using Slate Digital to run 3 stages of compression, as well as EOS's Air EQ to do a little bit of EQing. At the very front, we have the FG116, which acts as a FET compressor. We've got the fastest attack time and the slowest release to get the most compression out of it we can. We've dialed the input in to get about 3 to 5 decibels of reduction. And then we've also high-passed the incoming circuit so that it won't compress some of the lower sounds. We've set the mix to 60%. I didn't want to crush the vocal, I just wanted some of the additional volume from the effect. Behind that is an FG2A, which works as an LA2A emulator. I've got the peak reduction down, I've got the gain up, so I'm averaging 5 to 7 is what I'm looking for. I've got the mix way down. I'm not looking to flatten the vocal still, I just want some extra oomph and some body behind it. Lastly, we've got the Revival, which kind of gives an analog feel. I've got the thickness up a little bit to boost some of the low and the shimmer way up. There's something about those high ends that really makes it feel present and in your face. Right after that, we've got Eosis rolling off the lows so that it agrees with the bass, the kick, and any other low frequency instruments. And then I'm just dipping a little bit of sibilance back out at the very end here. I'll turn those on in order so you can hear what they're doing.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no, no. Why you can't look good? Replace my kisses with liquor, my love with drugs. Tired of falling in love. Tired of falling in love.
There's two reverbs at play here. There's the room reverb. I just used the default hybrid reverb and went to the spatial room setting. I'm using Eosis to cut out most of the lows so it doesn't interfere with anything and tame in a little bit of sibilance as well as a resonant frequency. The other reverb is a plate reverb. This is taking much more of the vocal than it is the room elements, but there are some room sent to it. Essentially what we're doing here is we've got little plate taking in the reverb. We're giving it just a hair of saturation. I shouldn't say a hair, that's pretty much 6 is quite a bit. And then we're sidechaining it to the vocal before we cut it out with Eosis, and then mid-side EQ it with EQ8. I'll go ahead and turn those on so you can hear what they do as well.
Tired of falling in love. Love ain't meant for a thug, no, no. Why you can't look good?
Most of the magic in this reverb is from the sidechaining. I'll solo it so you can hear what that is actually doing. So you can see on the compressor here, this is the input of the original vocal coming from the vocal bus. We're just getting a little bit of dipping. If I turn this off, it's a pretty even volume. With this sidechained, it is jumping out of the way for that lead vocal to poke through and then coming back in to fill the space. That's it. That's the magic behind Purple. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like, a comment, subscribe, whatever. Usual YouTube like stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. This video gets 2,000 likes. I'll break down the rest of the song, drums, guitar, all of it. Till then, this was Alexander with Tiger Blood Studio. Peace.